Alone, but never lonely. During your lifetime, it's very important to spend a period in solitude. This experience will likely come whether you ask for it or not, most likely through the route of another failed relationship or friendship, which leads you into thinking, I'm starting to think everyone is as wicked as the people who've wronged me, and this is beginning to make me really hate people overall. However, the danger lies in lack of continuing this thought. If you stop this thought right here and let this be the conclusive mindset you have in response to people, then you will inevitably fall into a negative downward spiral of loneliness, worsened communication skills, and eventually nihilism, thinking, what is the point in anything? On the contrary, if after having such a thought, which will introduce you to a period of solitude, you follow that said thought with what I mentioned in my Insecurities Will Ruin Any Good Characteristics You Have video, which states, your criticisms should always be inwardly directed, because it is yourself you wish to invest time in and change, not others, to incentivize this necessary change in your character. If the idea of constructively criticizing yourself instead of others seems too idealistic and too fanciful of a thought, then you can approach this required change through pride. There is more than one route to the right answer. Through pride and perhaps arrogance, if the utilization of these emotions works better for you, then you are free to think, why on earth would I waste my own time worrying about others? Expending my efforts to change them, especially when I know it's high risk and low rewards, if at all any rewards, because there is no guarantee they will even change. No, I'm much too wise for that. I'd rather focus solely on myself, because myself I can control. If I've had a string of bad relationships, then I must think back on old Albert's quote. Einstein says, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, yet expecting different results. Therefore, I know at the very least that I have to fix this issue and really study people, because I will encounter people in every walk of life, even when I'm simply walking in life. So my attitude towards people should be that they are a skill to be mastered. I need to study people and refine my character in light of other people's behaviors. This skill is the only skill that will enhance every other possible skill. Being skillful in people will enhance your sales skills, your real estate skills, and so forth, because people are everywhere. And with people comes their opinions, but opinions being the cheapest commodity on earth, we'll have to leave for another video. In refining any skill comes first the attitude, which is the philosophy in which you operate by. Many people will tell you the why comes before the how, the attitude before the technique.
Coach, congratulations on the win tonight. Your team clearly won the defensive battle tonight. When you coach and teach your team defense, what's more important, technique or attitude?
First of all, a lot of respect to you. That's a heck of a question. I've been doing this a long time, and that's the first time anyone's ever asked me that. That's a heck of a question. Attitude comes first. We got to have guys that are going to believe in our mission. They're going to believe in what we want to do. Once they believe, then we can teach them the technique. It all starts with our mindset, and we've got guys that are completely bought into what we do.
After establishing your why, meaning your attitude towards how you wish to tackle the issue of people, and realizing that for every issue there is a solution, the next logical step would be to observe, to see which behaviors elicit which reactions. Observation is key in regards to honing any skill. Before participating in any game, the rules are first explained to you, and you observe a match before you join in and become a player yourself. Let's take my favorite sports anime for example. In the anime Haikyuu Season 4, Episode 2 and 3, the main character, Hinata, does not have the all-round adequate skills of a volleyball player. Thus, when he's told he is only allowed to observe and be the ball boy, not actually playing in a game, that come the time he's a player, he's able to perform techniques he otherwise could not have done. You will have undoubtedly learned quite a bit from merely observing people. Simultaneously, you are also studying people. So when you read certain books and watch certain videos on people and their behaviors, you're able to apply what you've learned more seamlessly. Quick note here. When reading certain books and listening to certain videos, think of yourself. When did you do this in your past? If you had behaved as is suggested in the book you're reading or the video you're watching, do you think the outcome in a particular situation in your past would have changed? This will be quite fun. It's a good pastime. Remember, the spirit of laziness has quite the persistent and louder voice. So you will hear a voice in your head say, well, I know the Seed and Serenity does say this, and there's really no harm in trying it. But there are differences between people, and social and cultural norms differ. So, since nothing works on all people with guaranteed results, then I better not try. You can always ace yourself out. So when the spirit of laziness says this, your pride should reply. That's a really pathetic thought. How foreign. I'm onto it. The spirit of laziness is trying to sabotage me. Why wouldn't this work if I'm the one executing it? I don't try, I do. Who do you think you are? I am.
Strike to claim it. And he got it!
That is why I did it! That's number 5! Are you kidding me? That's right! Who do you think you are? I am!
I love that video. Of course, I'm sure you're well aware that everything you study must be applied. I'm certain you've heard this mantra before from teachers.
Everything you studied in class must be applied to the questions in the exam paper.
How nostalgic. Therefore, extrapolate this teaching and apply it to your personal life. Yes, you may feel nervous and anxious, but think of it like a game, like an experiment. That way, since you add a carefree, playful aspect to your mission by calling it an experiment or a game, you become detached. And when you get undesirable results, you think, I should note this down. I wonder what move would be more successful in this experiment of mine. Approaching it in this playful way will remove the spirit of desperation right on out of you, because you will utilize the art of detachment as you view this experimenting game as a source of amusement. I remember reading to read in university and watching to watch and stumbling across the idea of studying people. And I was speaking to the Lord as I do, and I say, I'm not really interested in making any new friends in law school. This isn't really a quest I want to devote myself to. But the Lord just knows me so well. And I kid you not, I hear this voice in my head say, treat it like an experiment. All of a sudden the gears started turning, and I think to myself, ooh, I'm in my final year of my final semester, so what better time? I don't actually devotedly care about gaining any new friends. There's absolutely no desperation behind it, and what's the harm in a little amusement? So I'll treat it like a game. I'm not even joking. I had a file on my Mac called the Playground Experiment. I typed down practical things I could do from certain videos that were actually enjoyable to watch, and some from very good books I'd read, and I applied it on these test subjects, on these students, on these wonderful people. And what do you know? Tremendous success. Great fun. Also, let me just flex a bit. Your girl graduated summa cum laude. Is that what it is? It's first class honors over here. Number 1. First class honors, the highest you can get. What can I say? Beauty and brains. Do this as an experiment. There is no better way to play chess than life being your chessboard and people being your pieces. In good faith, of course. Now let's talk strategy. When you are alone, you feel lonely because you do not do anything. That is where that feeling comes from. Ironically enough, it's not because you're actually alone. You feel the element of unsatisfaction and disapproval, which are components of loneliness because you're going against what your body wants and desires. Keyword, motion. Everything in life is in motion. It is moving. It is doing something. So when you, who is a part of life, goes against the way of life by being stagnant and living a sedentary life, meaning you don't move, then of course your body will send disapproving, unsatisfied signals, which will come across to unbeknownst to you as, something's wrong. I don't know how I can identify this unsatisfied feeling. Well, let me see. I'm alone, aren't I?
Eureka! That's it!
It must be loneliness. You know, Sherlock, are you? Terrible deduction skills. I'm kidding. You guys know I was just kidding.
I was just kidding! Come on! You guys know I was just kidding, right?
I've got to reel it in. I'm having too much fun. So what you want to do in order to remedy this error in thought and not feel, as you call it, lonely whenever you are alone, is to do something you can be taught. To be more specific, in the time you are alone, you want to pick a hobby that will require you to be in motion. Tick, you've checked off the requirement. Now the key is not to choose something that requires another person. This is very important. Chess is acceptable because you can play it online with a computer, but tennis is not ideal. It can be anything that you can learn to do alone, whether it be learning how to do your nails, crocheting, puzzles, sculpting, painting, anything. The imperativeness of this being an activity that you do alone is because you will not rely on anyone for your happiness and contentment. When doing this activity, the more you do it, you will invariably become more skillful at it, and thus you will like yourself more as a result. Furthermore, since you do it alone, spending more time with yourself and thus knowing yourself better, because you may simultaneously be talking to yourself in your head or aloud, and most significantly, you did not rely on anyone to gain such pleasure in doing such an activity. If you were to choose something like tennis, which requires another person, you may find yourself saying, oh, that was such a fun day playing tennis. Well, of course it was, so and so was there playing with me. This is what I mean on reliance and dependency on another person for your satisfaction. You continue this thought and ask yourself, can this really be the way to remedy what I call loneliness? Because if I do pick up a hobby that requires another person, what happens when the plans to do said activity with another person falls through? Will I even continue this activity long enough that it becomes a hobby? And why risk that possibility that can, at most, only bring minimal rewards and does not even remedy the issue at hand? However, if you pick up a hobby that you do alone, improving this skill and increasing your self-esteem as you get better at said skill, all the while spending time with yourself, thus getting to know yourself better, not reliant on anyone else to provide you with satisfaction. I cannot list the amount of benefits that will stem as a result of this. This video would be far too long if I did so, but it's long enough as is. So there you have it. Alone but never lonely.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.